So I did a snippet on Instagram the other day about a female pirate, and when I looked into it, I realised there was so much more about her. Now, having had a quick look, it seems that in the 20th century it was full of Chinese pirates. Yet 18th century, I know I skipped one there, full of English and Irish. Now, Ching Shi was born in 1775 and apparently was a prostitute working on a floating brothel. This part of her life started in 1801 when she married into a notorious pirate family and married Cheng I. There are many a story why Cheng wanted to marry Ching Shih. It could have been that he was obsessed with her and wanted him all to himself, or it was more of a business opportunity and saw the advantage of having her on his side. Whichever it happened to be, Ching Shi actually managed to get control of over 50% of his empire. She was also known as Cheng Shi, which means wife of Cheng. Now, this notorious pair managed to do one thing that nobody had ever managed to do. They united rivals. They gathered and unified a huge amount of pirate fleets and gangs to form a federation. They put them into 6 fleets and named them after colours: blue, red, green, black, white, yellow. And by 1804 they were known as the Red Flag Fleet. Now, Cheng died in 1807, which left Ching Shi to take over his entire empire. And by 1809 she had almost tripled her fleet and had control of the whole of South China Seas. She was very clever, she knew how to keep control. She treated her commanders very well, and she shared power with them. Raiding ships, raiding towns and villages, she shared everything with her commanders. Now, although she was a very prominent woman, she still kind of needed a man by her side, and she decided the best option for that was her adoptive son. Cheng Po was very respected amongst the fleet and was very loyal, so he was an ideal choice. She seduced him and they were married. Now, one of the most fascinating things I found out about this was the code of conduct, the rules that she insisted they all live by. She was very strict. Anyone giving their own orders that did not come from herself or disobeying orders was beheaded there and then. No one was to steal from a public fund or from villagers that supplied and helped pirates. All goods that were seized were to be inspected and recorded. The pirates who seized would receive a larger percentage and the rest was put to the public fund to be shared. Now, apparently there were special rules for capturing women. Most were released unless they were deemed pretty enough to become a pirate's wife. Now, if a pirate took a wife, he was told he had to be faithful to her. So no raping and pillaging for that pirate anymore. Raping a female captive was very much frowned upon, with instant death to the pirate. If he had permission from the lady, then they would both die. The lady would be dropped into the sea with cannonballs tied to her legs, and the pirate would be beheaded. If any rule was disobeyed, punishment would range from flogging to quartering to death. Now, obviously, she was a wanted criminal. After all, she was a pirate, so the government were after her, but to no avail. They tried to capture her so many times, but to the point where it actually turned the other way around, and Ching actually captured a huge number of their ships. After a while it wasn't going so well, and the Red Flag Fleet was suffering defeat after defeat. The government and the Portuguese Navy were actually winning this time. Finally, they had no choice but to give up. A deal was struck. Not only did Ching Shi manage to get all her pirates off, well, all the ones that were willing to give themselves up off, and a pardon, they actually managed to keep all their loot that they'd made that year. Plus they all had the chance to join the Navy or the government. She was definitely a resourceful woman who knew how to broker a deal. Now, Ching Shi retired from her life on the high seas as a pirate. Her husband, Cheng Po, was still sailing the high seas, but in a government capacity instead. Cheng Po died in 1822, and Ching Shi took herself and her family and kind of went to live in a semi-law-abiding way. Kind of? Sort of? She set up a gambling house and a brothel, so kind of back to her roots a bit. Well, at least she wasn't pirating anymore. Basically, Ching Shi was supposedly the most successful pirate of all time, having lived her life out with her riches, not dying in battle or execution. She got to live the rest of her life out exactly how she wanted, and she died surrounded lovingly by her family at the age of 69.